is short, so we'll go on to the next speaker. Amerigo Vitagliano. He's from the University of Bari. His passion is endouterine pathology, and it's reflected in his highly cited profile on the international stage. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. First of all, I want to thank Professor Dispiezio for his kind invitation, and of course, all the board of the HeartAS Congress. I thank also my mentor, Professor Ciccinelli, for giving me the possibility to be here today. Well, let's start the presentation. Please put on the presentation. Okay. Well, these are my conflict of interest. The luteal phase for a reproductive specialist is something at the same time attractive and enigmatic. I may say that, to use an Italian aphorism, it's like for Italians the grandmother's ragù. Everyone loves it, but no one knows what there is inside. Joking aside, we have revisited the luteal phase during the last decades. We now know that there's an interdependent relationship, a bilateral relationship between the oocyte and the granulosa cells, and this relationship influences the development of the follicle, and everything hesitates in the quality of the secretory activity of the corpus luteum. As we know, the corpus luteum produces several hormones, cytokines, growth factors, including progesterone, estrogen, inhibin, relaxin, oxytocin, and several growth factors and cytokines. And this is the first point. These molecules, with the exception of progesterone and estradiol, are often missing during the HRT cycles. Of course, progesterone has been considered as the main actor of the secretory changes of the endometrium, and as Paola Vigano previously showed, it is the main responsible of the acquirement of receptive and post-receptive profile, transcriptomic profile of the endometrium, and it mainly depends on the duration of progesterone exposure. The second point is we don't know which is the role of plasma concentration of progesterone. The luteal phase is impaired in both fresh and frozen cycles. In fresh cycles, we have this phenomena: premature progesterone rise, LH suppression, and granulosa cell disruption, mainly due to oocyte pickup. This mainly hesitates in these two issues: premature luteinization and the shorter luteal phase. During FET, the situation is much more heterogeneous, and it depends mainly on the type of endometrial preparation. In case of HRT, on the time of drug we are administering, of course, of the dose we are administering, and the combination of molecules. And the issues I will focus on with respect to the HRT are these: the endometrial effect of progesterone, the systemic effects of progesterone, and the absence of other CL products. Well, the question we are trying to answer today is, can recurrent implantation failure be associated with the defective luteal phase? According to the definition of ESHRI of recurrent implantation failure, and in line with the data that were shown by Paul yesterday, every one of us would say absolutely not. The message we are giving to our patients is something similar to an old song of the Beatles, "Baby, everything will be fine, it's just a matter of time." But I'm not sure this can be applied to the real IVF setting. This is because we must remind that the 65% of the cycles in Europe are still fresh. And during fresh cycle, a frequent occurrence is this phenomenon, premature luteinization, which occurs in from 10 to 25% of the cycles. And if we exceed the 3 days of hypermaturation, of endometrial hypermaturation, we will have no pregnancy. In this model, which put inside also the developmental speed of the embryo, we will see how the slower is the embryo growth and the higher is the endometrial hypermaturation, the lower will be the chances of the embryo to implant. A relatively small issue for FRET is, on the other hand, the luteal phase, which is just, as I was saying before, is just minimally impaired. And if we put into a forest plot randomized controlled data, randomized controlled trials data on intramuscular progesterone against vaginal progesterone, we will not see any statistical difference in the chances of ongoing pregnancy rate. But all the other studies have not shown a significant difference in the type of progesterone, the type of luteal phase support we give to our patients after fresh cycles. And to confirm this point, if we suspend the luteal phase support on the day of HCG test, of positive HCG test, we will not have any damage on the chances of ongoing pregnancy. So the luteal, the corpus luteum will be rescued by spontaneous HCG increase. So in fresh cycles, this is the scenario. We have a big trouble associated with premature luteinization and a relatively smaller issue associated with the shorter luteal phase. In fat cycles, the situation is extremely different. Recent randomized controlled trials have shown the shortcomings of vaginal progesterone administration. And if we try to pool the data, to aggregate the data into forest plot about intramuscular progesterone against vaginal progesterone, we will see a significantly higher ongoing pregnancy rate with intramuscular progesterone. But the most impressive study was the one by Devine et al. In 2021. The authors in this study were forced to stop the vaginal harm, the vaginal progesterone harm prematurely. This was because 20 to 2,000 milligram vaginal progesterone twice daily were associated with an almost double risk of early miscarriage and an almost half probability of live birth as compared to intramuscular progesterone and to the combination of intramuscular plus vaginal progesterone. So what we may say is, was just a matter of dose of progesterone, of vaginal progesterone? Well, maybe not. This old study of 1995 clearly demonstrated that there is no dose proportionality in plasma levels of progesterone after vaginal administration. In this study, the authors compared 100 milligram progesterone against 200 milligram progesterone and found that some patients had the same lower serum progesterone values with both dosage. And this is further reinforced from those data about 400 milligrams twice daily by Labarte et al. Of vaginal progesterone. In this study, there was a progestive increase in live birth rate in relation to progesterone serum values, but we again had some patients with low plasma levels of progesterone, and those patients experienced a lower live birth rate. So we have two reflections to be done. The first one is that vaginal surface is the limiting factor in vaginal progesterone administration, as low serum values occur in from 25 to 30% of the patients. The second one is that extrauterine concentration of progesterone may, at this point, influence the evolution of pregnancy, maybe perhaps to immune tolerance phenomena. And all these points are confirmed by this data from Alvarez et al., published in Human Reproduction in 2021. As you can see in the graph, these authors have compared patients administered 200 milligram vaginal progesterone 3 times daily with those patients in which there was a low progesteronemia inferior to 10.6 nanogram milliliter, in which the authors administered a rescue dose of 25 subcutaneous aqueous preparation of progesterone. And the groups were balanced in terms of ongoing pregnancy rate, clinical pregnancy rate, miscarriage rate, and live birth rate. So we probably can rescue this issue on the day of the embryo transfer. Other interesting possibility, and I'm closing, are the comparison between the double administration of subcutaneous progesterone administration with intramuscular one, which is in this observational study resulted in similar ongoing pregnancy and live birth rate, as well as the data published by the group of Bari, in which the authors compared vaginal gel twice daily with subcutaneous 25 milligrams twice daily, and the authors found no significant differences in the ongoing pregnancy and live birth rate between groups. But we must stress that these are observational data. I'm closing. So the luteal phase is significantly altered in both fresh cycles and frozen embryo transfer cycle. In fresh cycles, this phenomenon is mainly due to anticipation of desidualization processes and inactivity, temporary inactivity of the corporal lutea. In frozen embryo transfer cycle, the situation is more heterogeneous and depends on the type of endometrial preparation. The shortcomings of vaginal progesterone in HRT cycles have been recently highlighted and probably depend on the low plasma concentration that is found in a non-negligible percentage of the patients. The use of rescue progesterone, subcutaneous progesterone, and the exclusive administration of subcutaneous or vaginal gel twice are promising, but need confirmation from future randomized control trials. So, to conclude, may repeatedly abnormal insufficient LPS explain some RIF. The risk is, I think, high in the daily practice. Thank you for your time.